Dog, I really gotta get a mic stand because this is ghetto. So I'm entering a brand new time. I'm taking a break from Resident Evil, but I'll be back after these messages. I finally beat Silent Hill, and with all this talk of the Silent Hill 2 remake, I have to say, why are they skipping the first one? I'm completely aware that 2 was the game that put most people on and the most successful, but 1 was still a really dope-ass game. So why? Why? What's the point of skipping it? Is it a cash grab? And they was really already hating on the Remake 2 footage, but I don't know, maybe they just really needed dudes to start talking about it, and if it did, they did. Hey, look man, it worked in their favor. Every few days there's a new update about a release date, what platforms it's going to be playable on, and so and so. Anyway, Silent Hill 1 was still amazing for a blocky ass pixelated game that was made in 1999. Not to mention the price tag on some of these copies are crazy high. So here's my pitch. I personally think they should remake the first game first. Let's get into it. Roll them credits. So just like when I first started Resident Evil, I'm a brand new boy to Silent Hill, and that just sounds terrible, bro. Let's pass. I've heard so much about this series for years, and as I've somehow turned this channel into a horror game channel unintentionally, I kind of never intended to play it. When I was growing up, it was rated M, so I wasn't gonna play it anyway. My parents checked the ESRB ratings game, so it wasn't moving. Especially after I first played Mortal Kombat back on 64. She was like, "Yeah, we taking this back to Blockbuster."
Fatality.
Silent Hill did not look like a very entertaining game to me. It looked super slow, super dark, and you were just a normal looking guy, which is a kid. That just ain't it. Come on, bruh, have some powers. Compared to all the action heavy fast shit I loved playing, that kinda wasn't moving in my direction. This was ironically the same case when I first saw Resident Evil years ago. I guess I just had to kind of grow into playing these kinds of games, to be honest, if we're being real. But if I'm being real, my first intro to horror was Dead Space back when it was initially released back in 2008, and I absolutely loved it. In fact, it's one of my favorite series of all time, so realistically, I can wholeheartedly say Dead Space was my introduction to survival hardcore. Who would have thought? Survival horror, hardcore, hardcore survival horror, that's what I'm talking about. Also, side note, I just finished Silent Hill 2, and yeah, speaking of hardcore survival horror, y'all need to chill, because that game is extremely horny, and I see why y'all hoes be liking it. Y'all need to relax. That's all I'm gonna say until I get to the game. Let's continue. Like, I really walked in on Pyramid Head getting his meat stick greased up like 3 times in the game. Dog, unnecessary hardcore corn on the cob. Like, yo, relax. Silent Hill 1 isn't the kind of game to shake its stick at. It is not to be taken lightly, even by its pixelated graphics, even in 2024 as I make this video. The game is so desolate, it's like taking a bunch of liminal spaces and making sure you have one light on in the vicinity. Other than that, there is also an otherworld where Harry walks into, where there are small children trying to eat you and for some reason making questionable noises, nurses that want to give you a hug after you had a good job in taking a shot, and Emotep's body that they dug up right before the mummy premiered.
What the hell is even that?
I'm gonna focus on the atmosphere first because holy shit, this was my main selling point. And the kind of convoluted story that came into the game came second, so I mean, it is what it is. It was fine, but it's kind of weird, kind of unclear, kind of up to speculation. I usually talk about the development process of these games before that taking too long and it's irrelevant to my pitch. Silent Hill 1 makes you feel alone, and even when there's enemies, they don't feel like a being, but just an entity. It's like when you're by yourself and there's a haunted object. You know it's a haunted object. So it's like you're alone, but you're not. I'm repeating myself. I'll shut up. You get the idea. Silent Hill 1 is a chill factory. Since the very start of the game, it's so quiet, so silent, so distorted. And I played through these blind, so I don't know what the hell is gonna happen. Harry Mason's journey starts off in a humble, eerie town that slowly gets more and more so demonic, I guess is the best you can kind of say. Which makes sense when you think about it. Director Kichiro Toyama got a lot of his ideas from UFOs and the occult themes when he was first brought on the team for development. It constantly keeps you on edge. Every corridor you have to proceed with caution. Every door walked through is like an adventure or a friendly greeting somehow. I felt myself constantly pretty much not liking every area in this game, but I definitely loved it from a gaming standpoint. Like walking between the lines of reality and the nightmare. Everything is so blurred, everything is so disoriented. Weather changes were few in this game, but when it happened, you knew something was right around the corner. Like these fucking gorillas that I thought were gorillas, but were actually disfigured manifestations of Alyssa Gillespie's fear of adults called rompers. The game pretty much turns into a maze, and because of this atmosphere, it puts the players in a bit of a sticky situation. Finding objects, traversing through buildings and levels aren't easy because it pretty much immensely bleeds you dry on the anxiety meter. The main theme of this game was loneliness, and it pretty much hit the nail on the head. Silent Hill 2 kinda had the same theme here, but capitalized on more of the other elements. Because by the first few hours, I felt like I was living amongst a few good lost individuals, rather than being dropped on my head in a pit of despair with no one around and no answers like in Silent Hill 1. In fact, upon meeting the first character, Sybil Bennett, Harry is attacked and wakes up in a bar, which pretty much confirms the whole thing is a dream. But not. Silent Hill is basically psychological horror by the correct definition. It beats a lot of these new gen horror games by a large margin in my opinion. I don't know if that's a wild opinion, but I'm willing to die on that hill. I'm sorry. Now moving on here, as I stated earlier, the atmosphere was my biggest sell in this game, because regardless of enemies, bosses, or characters, this wasn't the kind of game that you run into enemies in every room. They were a bit sporadic, a bit spontaneous, and very surprising, just like the music and sound design here. Dead Space, once again, one of my favorite series of all time. I'm about to play the remake probably next. I might not do a video on it, screw it, but who knows, we'll find out. The next episode. Dead Space was a key player in sound design for horror games in the new gen, but if that was the case, Silent Hill was the godfather of it. Roman Reigns, Bloodline, I don't know. The Rock did that one joint, like he was like the L, like he's gonna lose, and people thought he was gonna. I'm getting sidetracked. Let's just continue on with Silent Hill. If you look up the soundtrack, it's a ton of just doom notes and doom tones. Loop reverbs, growls, high pitches, and distorted stabs that are meant to bother and disturb you. There isn't a lot of hype and jam to these sounds, but there's a ton of emotion. I've walked into several rooms in which there will be no enemies, but walked into that same room being super disturbed. Nothing's happening, so did the devs just decide to mess with me? Why were they preparing me for something that was about to come up in another 20 minutes in the gameplay? Who knows? But whatever the reason was, they did a hell of a job. And when you're playing these with like Vamoda headphones, which I kind of use, yeah, there's an extra kick that goes with that, and that's kind of like detrimental. Sometimes there would be no music, just the footsteps of Harry Mason, and that puts you in a mental space where you would rather hear anything else. Imagine just exploring and walking to the room when you either hear, "Heaven give me a say." I'll kill you. Or It Ain't Gonna Rain starts to play. Sheer terror and a goddamn heart attack. Like scaring the absolute soul out of your body like a Tom and Jerry murder scene. One of the most memorable sounds from the soundtrack was Devil's Lyric, and I absolutely despise this. I've never actually heard such a shrieking sound to distract me from my original objective. I feel like this was in fact probably the most haunting sound in the entire game other than the rompers when they start chasing you. There are also times where there will be follies banging in the background, no reference, just banging disturbing sounds from something or other, and it sucks when it's quiet. Too quiet. I fucking hate it. Heart-beating basses is if there's a breathing character in the background and the background is inside of this creature's like body. This is what you hear during the game of playing Silent Hill. I hate it, but I loved it at the same time. Pretty much most of the sounds from the soundtrack are super macabre art pieces. They were pretty much just from a few seconds to 2 minutes tops, and that's all that kind of goes to show you what they were going for. As a producer, I can sit here and talk about this all day. And I do want to talk about the musical pieces in this game that are very well produced that aren't just toned. One of my favorite songs in the entire game was Clawfinger, which you first hear in the Belkin Church when you first run into Dahlia Gillespie. I was gonna remake this, Remix? Look man, I don't know, I was gonna sample the track, And then it wasn't going well for the kind of track I was gonna make it into. And then I heard the damn results screen from the first game. Absolute banger. Finger is a close second because it sounds like when you wake up confused in your car realizing it snowed out, but it's that really quiet in the middle of the night snow and there's like one lamppost on. Don't ask me, don't question how I've lived my life to know this. It's very soothing but also very worrying, and what even helps more is the fact that it's basically a church's thing. But you stereotypically should feel safe and spiritually revitalized. The theme is soothing, but it also makes you feel like there's only one save point or the one rest stop in the game. There's a word for that somewhere, what is it called? Melancholy? Pretty sure that's what it's called. So even the songs that sounds hella dope, production-wise, have a very sad sense to them. There's nothing bright in Silent Hill, and there probably never will be. Fear of the Dark also invoked a similar feeling, but definitely wasn't on the same level of supremacy.
I couldn't have left you. Things are worse than I thought. It's nuts.
What are you doing here? I thought you left town.
Regardless of how you look at it, the music was one of the key factors of what made this game so fantastic, and why this would be doing extremely well in a remake. Now, the year is 2024, and a 3D platformer or fixed camera angle wave has passed. And even if it's not exactly the same as Resident Evil's fixed camera angles back in the day, there were some fixed camera angles in part of this game. That's not even up to discussion. That's just no arguments. You look at it and say, oh, that's just facts. Might not have been the same kind, but they're definitely there. Silent Hill's gameplay generally consists of exploration and puzzle solving. Harry Mason navigates the streets of Silent Hill in order to find his lost daughter Cheryl. I mean, I guess this could be lost Cheryl too, but I don't know, man. I'll go into the story of Silent Hill at another date because I don't know, man. It's kind of crazy, bro. Like, I don't really know how to explain it. Like, I played through the game, but I don't know, man. If you don't know the game, like, you gotta look it up. I'll explain it probably in another video, but I don't know. It's a weird story. Navigating through Silent Hill can be a bit interesting since the game is so old. Devs use the fog as a loading device. There are portions where you don't know which direction you're going. Hence, as I said, just Maze Runner without the walls. This could be a giant pain in the ass if you kind of haven't found the map in a certain area, if it's dark outside, or if you're just like me and start wandering. It's also a pain in the ass when you run into a fucking surprise chase scene from the fucking rompers, like I'm Simba running from the damn hyenas in the Lion King. If it's a note, Harry gets very out of breath whenever he runs for a while, but honestly, I think it's just a feature to worry you. I personally never saw this affect his speed or motion. However, I did figure out later in the game, if you hold the attack buttons, your melee attacks will go further and have a higher damage ratio. I wish I kind of knew that when these demon children would come crying to me like their fucking science teacher just yelled at them in school. Like Mr. Ricks in elementary school for me. No one's gonna get that reference unless you've seen this video and went to elementary school with me. But whatever, it is what it is. It was hilarious. I heard this man yelling from down the hall and I was like, God damn, what's going on with him? Until maybe mid-game, you can pretty much navigate with melee weapons. So you can pretty much have save ammo for the big bosses. Because fighting a giant fucking moth with a steel pipe or a sharpened hammer is bull. Because for some reason, Harry can't jump. Look at him. Taking white boys can't jump at the worst possible time. Harry's combat skills is pretty much what you think it is, or worse. He's purposely made to fire super wobbly and unsteady to show you that he is as normal as they come. But the game does sort of have a invisible lock feature, so shoot with caution. Most of Silent Hill is just finding a map, having fun exploring what you can find through the unlocked doors, and eventually you'll find what you're looking for. Even though there are really no hints for what's in this game. That's okay. It adds to the fear. There is one specific boss fight with the possessed Sybil in which you can apparently use this red liquid to immediately beat her, but of course, I didn't get this, which leads me to say this game doesn't have any backtracking. It's an old game, so you kind of don't really expect to have backtracking. So this is a cautionary tale of, if I'm gone, I'm not coming back. And to be honest, I don't want to be here. Deuces. But yeah, apparently it's 1,000 times harder to beat her without the liquid, which ran me with almost no ammo for the final boss, which is like Bahamut or like Satan himself. I don't know.
You dare to honor me? Feel the wrath of our
Konami is making Silent Hill 2, so why not make the first? Silent Hill 1 is possibly even scarier than the second because of that feeling of loneliness that it presents. Silent Hill 2 is fantastic, but I'm feeling it's more of an adventure where you meet other figures who were sent to limbo. Mind you, I'm a little biased when it comes to older games being scarier overall because their distortion elements cannot be replicated. This is the reason why indie horror game devs still make stuff like this and why they end up being nightmare fuel that horror channels and streamers flock to like a fly going to a zapper. Silent Hill's sound design in the new gen would be mentally insane. It'd probably be the only game that makes you want to actually turn the volume down. Like, could you imagine how insane a lot of the sound design would be in this game? No!
Daddy, help me. Where are you? Daddy, help me.
Audio technology and design has been such an important factor in games these days. That little telephone ring when Harry picked up Cheryl's phone call in the school would make small children cry from just hearing it. I know people are gonna say it's gonna be a cheap RE remake copy, and to be honest, that's what people are saying now, but what are we gonna do with that? Like, we may as well just complete the saga at this point. And realistically, I don't think there's a connection from the first one to the second one. It's just two different characters, two different stories. I mean, you can kind of see the overall picture of what Silent Hill is in the second game, based because I just beat it a few days. Actually, I just beat it like 2 days ago. Was it? No, I beat it yesterday. There are a ton of elements and enemies that will go well in a new age setting, and horror features that aren't in 2 that one specialized in. The combat elements, so specifically the Harry, will be amazing in a new gym, as well as some bosses. These are 2-decade-old bosses at this point, so seeing a new re-envisioning. Damn it, that word was hard to say. Oh my gosh. I always say I want to just wing this from the top of my dome, but I would forget everything if I was to do that. It's a sad case, man. It's a sad case. And Silent Hill Memories shouldn't count because that was not an accurate representation of the original, but only a reimagining. 2 put everyone on, but 1 solidified the series. Most of the time, it's ranked the second best behind 2. There's a bit of an atmospheric melancholy that's different from 2, and I believe 2 took these darker elements from 1 and cranked it up to 1,000. However, I think that a balanced version of the series being the first could definitely benefit from a remake. With that being said, let's just be honest, with Silent Hill 2 being the most popular of the series, once it's released, if it does well, the rest will pretty much follow. So, here is my pitch of why they should remake Silent Hill 1. Thanks a lot, y'all, for coming over to the channel and giving it a watch. It means a lot. Be sure to give it a like and click the subscribe button for whenever I upload, you'll get the notification. Give it a little comment in the section down below, because the algo is not being nice to me at all. The algo is being mean. The algo is pretty much nemesis at this point. No pun intended. Kind of, sort of, but yeah. What do y'all think about Silent Hill 1? Did you like it better than 2? And would you like to see a remake of Silent Hill 1? Is Konami once again gonna fail us like everyone keeps saying, as usual, because it was buried by Resident Evil? Let's talk about it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your opinions on it. Let me know what you think I should talk about and play next. This is Kymax. Stay safe, stay kicking. I'll catch y'all later.
What are you doing, Laura?
It's further back in the desk.
Laura! What are you doing?
Ha ha, I tricked you.
Open the door, Laura.
Why should I? I'm a liar, right? Want me to open it? Huh? Huh? Do ya? What's the magic word?
Laura?